Hi everyone and welcome to the live FPL Gameweek 1 deadline stream. We've got 1 hour to go until deadline, and tonight is myself, FPL Matt Day, and I'm joined by Quentin from the FPL Amateurs of Aus podcast. Just before we start the stream, if you could please like, comment and subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. So we'll get into it now. Q, how you feeling, mate? Are you excited after the pre-season?
I think it's a bit of a relief actually, because finally I can stop putting plays in and out of my side. It's getting close to the deadline now where I can just relax and set my team, and what it'll be, we're not sure, but I'm just glad that it's sort of all the stress is over now. So I'm pretty pumped to watch some football now.
Oh, of course, mate. And how many drafts have you done, mate? Are you on you're on draft number 50, aren't you, by now? Or draft number
I'd reckon it'd
100?
be close to 100, mate.
100?
Yeah, it'd be pretty close to 100, mate. I think that, as I spoke to you earlier, it's the curse of watching so much preseason football is that I've made so many different drafts after, knee-jerk reactions watching friendlies. So it's been good to actually now just have a side picked, and I'm just not going to touch it now and, leave it be.
No, I agree. I think all we've done is just tinker for weeks. Well, you have with all your drafts and stuff, and it's good to be in that final hour. So for all the viewers that are out there watching, get your questions in the comments. Me and Q hopefully can help you in the next hour to make those last minute picks. I'll try not to be too biased for Spurs. I'm sure Q will be telling you to get in Jadon Sancho and Rashford, but yeah, we'll see how we go. So what we'll do a quick preview of the fixtures. And let's have a look. We'll pick a player from each game and we'll do a score prediction as well. So let's get the fixtures up, and we'll start with tonight's game, which is obviously the opening game between Palace and Arsenal, which has the highest owned player in history of FPL, I believe. Q, I think Gabriel Jesus is 75% owned. Is he? I think it's possibly the highest player ownership in history, I think. But what we'll do is we'll preview this one. Q, who's
some technical difficulties there.
Oh no, that's okay, mate. Who's your one to watch in this one?
Sorry, I think my mic's playing up, mate.
No, that's all right, Q. I will. I'll preview this one for us. I think Q's gone from the stream, so it's just me for now. We've got the Palace Arsenal game. I'd say from an FPL point of view, the one player to watch has got to be Gabriel Jesus, who we did just speak about. 75% ownership. I think he's in pretty much everyone's team. Isn't actually in my final draft, and it's not because I'm a Spurs fan. I'm actually just using the money elsewhere. I think he's in your team though, Q, but I guess we'll find out when he comes back into the stream. And then in terms of a score prediction, I'm probably going to go with, I think Arsenal will win this one. So I'll back Arsenal to win this one 2-1. I'll go with a Jesus goal and maybe a Saka goal as well. Maybe with a couple of Martinelli assists in there. So I think it'll be a good opening game. I think we'll see goals in both. And here's Q. He's back in the stream.
Sorry about that, mate.
Here he is.
Technical difficulties, mate.
That's okay, mate. You've come back. And I just did the prediction for the Palace Arsenal game for you. I've gone 2-1 Arsenal. I've said Saka and Jesus are going to score. Potentially Martinelli with a couple of assists. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, actually, that's pretty close to the prediction that I had. I think it's going to be maybe a tight affair. I think both teams probably playing a little bit cautious to start off with, but I think Jesus and Saka are going to be pretty crucial for them this game. I think their attacks looked really good in the preseason, so I could see them possibly getting off to a good start late in the first half, but I could see Palace that second half, clawing a goal back. So I think that no clean sheets for anyone this game, but I think it's going to be a win for Arsenal, but in a tight affair.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think, obviously we spoke about Arsenal. I think from a Palace perspective, there's a couple of good players to look at this season. I think Zaha, again, is probably going to remain on pens. He's going to be the star of the show for Palace like he has been for years now. And there's also Eze is going to be back on the frame as well this season. So it'll be interesting to see how he does tonight. But we'll move on now to the next games. We've got Fulham-Liverpool, which is the early game tomorrow. Fulham newly promoted side. Marco Silva's come out and said, they've only really got 16 Premier League worthy players in their squad, which probably isn't the best thing.
Could be
You
mind
want
games though, mate.
yeah, it could be mind games. It's not something you want to hear as a Fulham fan or a Fulham player, but they're coming in against Liverpool, finished second last year. Obviously, they got to, I think it was the longest season played out by any Premier League side, because they got to every final. They played every single game that they possibly could have played. We'll give this one to you, Q. I ended up previewing the Palace Arsenal one, so we'll give this one to you. What do you think the score's going to be? And if you want to just give us a bit of a FPL roundup and a player that you think is an absolute must-have.
Well, I'm going to get a little bit of hate, which I've already got in my group chat earlier today. But I think that Fulham's going to score this game. I don't think there's going to be a clean sheet for Liverpool, but I still think Liverpool are going to win convincingly against Fulham. I could see, maybe about a 3-1, 4-1 scoreline. So I think that Liverpool will get off to a good start, but I think people banking on the clean sheet. I think I could see Pereira putting in a ball for Mitrovic to score off a header on a set piece. I think they've shown preseason that, offset pieces they have look quite good. So I think probably the key player we're going to talk about is Salah. I think he's looked really good preseason, whereas the hype's kind of been around Nunez and Diaz. I think that this could be one of the Salah specials where he gets 2 goals, gets an assist and maximum bonus. So I think he's definitely one to look out. And I think looking at their centre pairing, I spoke to you, I had a feeling Konate might come into the side this year, but he might be something to watch whether Matip starts week 1 or whether they go Konate.
Yeah, I think Matip will be safe because Konate, I believe, has picked up an injury in the week, which is a bit of a blow for Liverpool. So I think he'll probably be safe now for this week anyway. But yeah, I agree with you with Salah. I think, tried and tested, does it every year. We know how good he is. I think he's going to be most people's captains. I know there's a bit of a no Salah trend, going around on the in the FPL community, and some people want to do that, and hats off to them for trying something different. But for me, I think Salah's got to be in the side. As for the scoreline, the 4-1. Yeah, you're probably about right. I would like the clean sheet. I am going to be doubling up on that Liverpool defence, so I wouldn't like them to concede. But if they do, then all the better for those that don't double up on Liverpool. So yeah, I think I agree. I think Liverpool are going to come out and win that one quite comfortably. Let's move on to the Bournemouth Aston Villa game. Obviously, Bournemouth, another newly promoted side. Again, Scott Parker, similar to Marco Silva at Fulham, he's come out and said, Bournemouth again, probably not Premier League quality. Don't have the best squad. They got an injury crisis at the back, which obviously, looks at us with Aston Villa and thinks, let's get some of their players in. There's obviously going to be a couple of players from them that, people are going to be interested in. So, I think in terms of one to watch, it's probably going to have to be Leon Bailey, who, we've all spoke about, throughout the pre-season. He's been unbelievable. He was electric in that friendly against Man United. He's only 5 million. I think we're going to see him in a lot of teams. So I think he's definitely one to look out for. You've got the likes of Matt Cash, who's 5 million. There's Ollie Watkins in there as well. So I think there's some good players to look out for from a Villa perspective. And then maybe from a Bournemouth perspective, you've got Dominic Solanke in there, who's on pens. He got 28 goals in the Championship. So I think, there's some good players to look out for in this one, mainly from Villa. And in terms of a score prediction, I think, Villa are going to win this one, maybe 2-0. What do you think, Q?
Yeah, I think it could be a tricky fixture. I spoke to a mate today. I think that this could be potential for an upset. I think that a lot of people like myself have probably, rated Villa an easy win this week, but I actually could see a quite tough fixture, similar to, I guess, the Arsenal-Brentford fixture last season, week 1, where a lot of people kind of didn't know what to expect from Brentford and, they did the business. So I think this could be actually a tight affair. I think I picked a 1-1 draw in this game. I think that it's going to be pretty tight. But like you said, Bailey's a great pick. I think at his price is great value. And the likes of Coutinho, I'm very interested to see how he starts the season, because he did have a sort of a period last season where he was really good, but then kind of fell off and wasn't quite as impactful towards the end of the season. So definitely interested to see how he starts the season.
Yeah, no, good points. I think you raised a good point about Coutinho as well. I remember last season there was that double game week towards the end think we both captained him, and he got an absolutely massive haul. And he's had a full pre-season now under Steven Gerrard with Aston Villa. He's only 7 million, so it could be a good time to own Coutinho in this first 4 games. I think Villa have got some really good fixtures with this Bournemouth game, then the Everton game at home in the second match. So it could be a good game for some FPL assets from Villa. But we'll go on to the Leeds Wolves game. We'll get you to do this one, Q. Give me a player. I'll give a quick shout out to Craig, to Lanio. Thanks for watching the stream, mate. Good to hear you're enjoying it. Thoughts on Dean versus Cash from Villa? What do you reckon, Q? And I think you're on mute, mate. I'll have to unmute you.
Sorry. I think short term, both really good options. It's 50-50 in that one. But I know they did sign, is it Augustinsson? They signed in the preseason. Okay. Augustin, I think Ludwig Augustin. I think he's direct competition for Luca Dean. So I'm not 100% sure long term, but I think it's more of a 50-50 and, who you are backing to, provide that better attacking threat. I know at times last season, I think they focused on one side of the field some games and then the other side of the field the other games. So, yeah, for me, it's about a 50-50 call, but I think either of those assets are decent for the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was actually confused at the start when he's put Dean there, and I was trying to think from Villa who is Dean from Villa, but it's Luca Dean, isn't it? Luca Digne. So yeah, look, I actually have Cash in my team. So obviously they're both 5 million. Digne's on all the corners and he's on all the set pieces. So he probably, people think that gives him that little bit of an edge, which I would normally agree with an FPL, but I think we saw how attacking Cash was last season, and he loves to have a crack at goal. So yeah, they are both very good options and they're a good price. So good luck in whatever decision you decide to make, Craig. And again, thanks for tuning in. And if any other viewers out there have got any questions about the the fixtures we're talking about now, any players, your drafts, any final decisions, just get them in the YouTube comments. But we'll move back to this Leeds Wolves game, Q. So yeah, if you want to give us a roundup, your score prediction, and your FPL players to watch.
I think this is going to be quite a good game. I'm backing Leeds to take away the win this week. I think that in preseason they've shown their attack with Bamford, even though he doesn't look 100% fully fit yet. I think their attack's going to be really good this season. And Wolves defensively were really good last year, but they also did fall away towards the end of the season. And during preseason, I've seen a couple of, I wouldn't say flaws in their defense, but they're not looking as Lockhart as they were early season last year. But I'm sort of picking a 3-2 win to Leeds, and I think that a lot of people that have Aronson that have taken a punt on Aronson, I think you're going to get rewarded this week. I could see him, getting a return, and obviously Neto for Wolves, I could see him getting on the score sheet as well. So I think people that have chose those budget options, I think are going to be pretty happy after this week.
Yeah, it's interesting some of the points you make. Obviously, 3-2 is quite a high scoring game for Wolves, because they, we saw them have quite a lot of low scoring games last year. And I do know a lot of their fans don't seem too happy at the moment. They didn't really get much transfer business done. They've not been, blown away by their coach. So, it could be an interesting start for Wolves this year. You mentioned Aronson's obviously the USA international that have signed. 5.5 million, so could possibly worth a punt there, like you mentioned. Obviously, Pedro Neto, he's in a lot of team side. I think he's a really good option. I know there's some people on the fence; they don't really think he's a good option, but I think for 5.5 million, probably going to be Wolves' main source of goals now. You got Jimenez is injured, Fabio Silva's left on loan, so I think he's going to be Wolves' main player, probably along with Podence in that front line, and obviously Hwang as well. So I think for 5.5 mil. If Neto stays fit, I think he's a really good option for our team. So, yeah, we'll see how that one goes. I agree. I think it'll be a good game. I just want to mention Patrick Bamford as well is going to be back in the Leeds lineup. Obviously, he was injured for a lot of last season. He got 17 goals in the previous campaign. So, I think he's quite a good option at 7.5 million. So, we'll see how that goes there. We'll move on now to Newcastle versus another newly promoted side, Nottingham Forest. So they're back in the Premier League after, I think it was a 99-2000 season or the 98-99 season they were last in the Premier League. It was a long time ago now. And it's great to have them back. They've got Newcastle away. So I think this is going to be a really good game. I'll go with a. I want to go with a Newcastle clean sheet because I've got Kieran Trippier in my team, which is all because Q has persuaded me to put Kieran Trippier in my team. So I want to back a Newcastle clean sheet. But I do also like the fact that Forest have got Lingard now. They've got Johnson. They've got a couple of decent players up there. But I'll go 2-0 Newcastle and I'll back maybe a Callum Wilson at some maximum goal. We'll go 2-0. We'll get the clean sheet for Pope out under the belt, clean sheet for Trippier, clean sheet for Botman, a clean sheet for Dan Burn. I think all of those players are good assets, especially the defenders that are, 4.5 million. Botman and Burn, both absolutely massive, and they can just attack all these Trippier set pieces. So I'll go Newcastle 2-0. Is there anyone in there you think I might have missed, Q, or anyone else to look out for? Obviously, other than the defenders and St. Max and Wilson, who we know so much about.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you've covered that well. I'm sort of backing Newcastle to get off to a good start as well. So I've similar scoreline 2-0. I'm not sure if you saw in our group chat with Dan, I've convinced him to go triple Newcastle. So I've got a lot invested in this game, but I really think that, they've looked really good preseason. And I think Notts might take a couple of weeks to sort of get up to speed in the Premier League. They've got some good players, got a brand new side with the players that left last season. So I think there might be a few teething problems early for Notts, but I mean, they do have some really good players, as you mentioned, with Lingard. So I'm thinking that Trippier is going to get an attacking return. And I think that Wilson is going to be the man that everyone's sort of wanting to get next week. So I think he's going to have a good game this week.
No, I agree. And I think, Dan might be knocking on your door first thing Monday morning if Newcastle end up losing that game. Obviously getting him into the triple up. We've got a question here from the Callum East. He's asked us, lads, Ramsdale or Neto, or Sanchez or Martinelli, and keeping 0.5 in the bank? Question mark. Ooh, you know what? I think Ramsdale and Neto is stronger there because I think Ramsdale's a better choice than Sanchez. So I think Ramsdale wins that. And I think Neto, over the course of the first, I do think Arsenal have obviously got good fixtures, but I'm assuming, Callum, you probably maybe have Jesus already in your team, one of the 75% of that, people that have him. So I'd say Ramsdale and Neto. I think Neto is going to be that main source of goals for Wolves. And it's just good having him in there for that price. Whereas Martinelli, he's safer now, but when Smith Rowe comes back in the team, you just never know. He could get dropped at any moment or rotated. And I think Ramsdale's a stronger option than Sanchez, regardless of obviously having that, that 0.5 in the bank. But yeah, Q, what do you reckon? What would you pick?
No, I'm the same. As I've spoken to you about Sanchez, I just don't think he has the flaw that a Ramsdale has with save points. And then obviously when they do get the clean sheet, Ramsdale's usually close to the top for bonus as well, like alongside Saka and Jesus. So, and I think if you do have Jesus, I think that's enough cover for their attack. And yeah, I think Neto, as you said, is a good pick, especially at that price. So I think long term, I think Ramsdale and Neto is the pick for me. I think Martinelli is good for the first few weeks, but with the likes of Smith Rowe back, and then depending on what they do with Marquinhos as well, I'm not sure whether he's going to get much game time early, but if he does impress, he'll get some game time as well, which he plays in a similar position to Martinelli. So I like the first option.
Good stuff, Q. And thanks for the question, Callum. Keep them rolling in. So we'll move on to the next game, Spurs versus Southampton. I'll take this one. Obviously, I'm a Spurs fan, so I'm happy to take this one. You know what? Obviously, we've made a lot of signings in this pre-season. Sometimes obviously we've got Conte. We ended the season really strong last year. I think a lot of the signings we made have been strong additions to the squad, maybe not necessarily to the lineup. Obviously, there is the exception of Bissouma and Longley, who I think can improve the actual first 11. But then you've got the likes of Spence, Richarlison, Forster. who are probably just coming in more as squad players, and then Perisic, who I think will improve the lineup, but I think it will be more of a case of, he's going to be in and out of the team during the season. He's there for his experience. He's there because he's, won medals before at big clubs. So I think, he'll come in and, improve Spurs in a lot of ways. Players to watch. There's plenty of players to watch in this one from a Spurs perspective. Harry Kane, I think it's going to be a lot of people's teams for this one as captain, because you've got a lot of people looking to swap him to Haaland in game week 2. So I think Kane, great record against Southampton. For all of those that were playing FPL a couple of years ago, Kane got, I think it was a 21-point haul in game week 2 against Southampton. He got 4 assists and a goal. And Son got 4 goals. It was just ridiculous when Spurs won 5-2. And Kane's got a great record against Saints, like he does most teams. Son's obviously a great pick. Kulusevski at 8 million, brilliant pick for this game. He hasn't scored at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yet, so he is due a home goal. So I think Kulusevski is a really good pick for this week, and he's going to get the start because Richarlison is suspended. And we've got a question actually here. I think this might be Geordie Wilson actually, our resident Newcastle fan in Sydney. Thanks for watching, mate, and tuning in. He's asked us, "Evening, lads. Interested to hear your thoughts on the Perisic dilemma. Seems unlikely to start game week 1 based on recent comments, but still so much upside there." Yeah, good question. Funnily enough, me and Cube, we were actually speaking about this offline just before, I think. And I was saying to Cube before, there was pictures. So Conte did a training session. I think it was this morning UK time, and he did the game where it was all the bibs. So similar to what Everton did last year, where they'd have their first team, their starting 11 would wear the bibs, and then everyone else wouldn't be wearing the bibs. And he didn't have Perisic with a bib, and he didn't have there was no Perisic with a bib. Obviously, Basuma wasn't there because he's got a knock. And he didn't have Doherty with a bib either. So, the rumours at the moment that Emerson Royale is going to play right back and Sessegnon's going to play left back. Me and my personal thoughts on it, I just look at it with Conte and I think he's going to want Spurs to hit the ground running with a fully fit team. And Perisic only really played 1.5 pre-season games. And I think if he's not quite there to hit the ground running, I don't think Conte will play him. I think he'll bring him on for the last maybe 30 minutes and then use him in the game against Chelsea the week after and have him ready for that, because that's obviously a big London derby. On the flip side, there is 5 subs now. So he might then give Perisic 60 minutes and then take him off, because we obviously there is that stat that Conte used that 5 sub rule nearly every week at Inter Milan when it was airing COVID. But just from seeing those comments, online, I think it was Paul O'Keefe, who's a really respected Spurs reporter, did say he thinks it's going to be Royale and Sessegnon. But I do think Perisic is a good pick for the preceding game weeks. But I'm not 100% sure. But what do you think, Hugh?
As we spoke offline before we come on, I had a few fellas message me the same question, and I think eventually he's going to be a great pick, especially at his price. But I wouldn't mind going to Trippier for week 1 and 2, because obviously Spurs have Chelsea next week, so that's 2 decent fixtures for Newcastle, and then you could always move across to Perisic then, because I have a good feeling that he's definitely going to be starting by week 3. So I wouldn't probably have him week 1, but
I think that's the case. I think there's just too much uncertainty at the moment around him, but I do think he's going to be a really good pick for the preceding game weeks. Even Doherty, because obviously I would love to have Perisic or Doherty in my own team, but even I don't want to take that risk right now. If you really want a Spurs defender for this game week, you just look at Dyer or Romero and just hope that they score from a set piece, from a header. Obviously Spurs have this new set piece coach, which I think I've told every man and his dog about, so I won't bring that up again. But in terms of scoreline, I'll give a quick scoreline prediction. I think I will go. I still think it'll be quite a tight one. I'll go with 2-0. 2-0 to Spurs. Maybe a Kane Son goal apiece. What do you think there, Q?
Yeah, no, I think very similar. I'm actually picking a bit of a 3-4-0 win for Spurs. I think that what was it, the 2 seasons ago where Kane and Son just went absolutely crazy.
Yeah, the 5-2.
Yeah, I could imagine it's going to be something similar week one. The way that Southampton has looked preseason defensively, I just think that, yeah, the signs aren't good for them to start the season, and I think Spurs have just been red hot. So I could see definitely a big win for Spurs week one.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't mind that. Let's go on to another question. We'll bring up, I think there's another question. We've got the
Yeah,
one
there
from Luke.
was.
We'll go with the one from
Yeah.
Luke first. So St. Maximum or Marcus Rashford? You know what? I'll give that one to you, Q. And I'll tell you what, that's a good question, Luke, because they're both midfielders. They're both technically out of position because they're classified as midfielders. Both going to probably play as forwards. And they're both 6.5 million. And you'd probably expect right now they're going to be Newcastle's main source of goals, along with Wilson, and Man United's main source of goals, along with Sancho, and we don't know what's going on with Ronaldo. So, yeah, what do you think? Who do you think's the better pick of the two?
That's actually a really hard decision, but I think for me, Rashford probably gets the nod with the news that Martial has the hamstring injury. They're not sure how long he's going to be out for, whether it's going to be 1 or 2 weeks, but that there are talks that Ronaldo is going to start up front and Rashford will obviously take his spot in the midfield. But I think that if that does happen, I don't think Ronaldo is going to last a full 90. I think they'll take him off, which then would push Rashford up top. So I think Rashford probably has a bit more upside, but St. Max has looked really good in the preseason. So I think it's a 50-50 call, but I mean, Rashford for United, the way they're playing at the moment, probably tips the hat for me.
Yeah, good analysis, and I think fair comments. Obviously, we know you got your Man United shirt on there, but I think I think that was fair. I think that was fair. I think Newcastle, like you said, the goals are going to be a bit more shared, and I think Rashford, he's got to have a better season than last year. I think he only got 4 goals, and you'd expect him to get back into the at least the double digits again, 10 to 15 goals. And if he does, he's going to be an absolute bargain. But before we go on to the Everton-Chelsea game, we'll go with the best 4.5 million keeper. And look.
And that's Brady, a resident on our pod.
Hi, Brady.
The brother-in-law, mate. So,
well, thanks for tuning in, mate. It's great to have you here. Best 4.5 million keeper. You know what? There's not many. But I personally would say probably David Raya, I think. The Brentford keeper. Brentford's defence was pretty tight last year. It was one of the best in the league. He's really good with the ball at his feet, which can help with the BPS if he's making a lot of short passes and playing it out from the back. He'll get save points. He'll get his bonus points. Brentford can win, those games against the teams around them, sort of 1-0. So I think he's probably the best one for me. I don't think there's a huge selection. I don't think there's much in it between any of them. Even Sanchez at Brighton's quite a good one because Brighton are a good side. You'd expect them to be pushing for the top half again. So you can get a top half keeper at 4.5 million. So I'll probably say those two. Is there anyone you think I might have missed, Q, or anyone you'd recommend?
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with Raya. You sort of always speak about how to, I guess, gauge on your goalkeepers and who to pick. You kind of want a defense that is all right, but not great, that they're going to concede a lot of shots. So, high potential for save points. So I think Brentford fit that bill. So Raya is a great pick. I think Meslier, I think Leeds defense is going to be a little bit better this year, but I don't think it's going to be good enough where they're not going to be conceding shots. I think they'll be conceding a high volume of shots this year. So I think Meslier and Raya have the greatest upside for me this season. So I think those would be the 2 options I'd go with.
Good stuff. All right, we'll move on to Everton-Chelsea. We'll let you preview this one, Q. Let's get your predictions. Who the FPL players to watch, and then what do you think the score is going to be?
I think this could be a 3-0 win for Chelsea. I know Everton did look a lot more improved towards the end of the season, but missing Calvert-Lewin up front, I think there's rumours that they're going to be playing Dele Alli up front, which I'm not fully sold on that.
Mhm.
I think pre-season they haven't looked great in attack. They've looked okay, but not threatening enough that I'd think that they're going to be banging goals in against Chelsea. So I think a couple of players to look at: Mount, who's looked amazing pre-season. It looks like they've focused the attack around Mount. You could see in a few games of the preseason where every time Reece James got to the byline, he was looking for Mount, and Mount was kind of just edge of the box making his runs, and people were finding him all the time. And even early in the attack, once they got into the attacking half, Mount was the first person that they found to ignite that attack. So I think he has pretty decent upside to start the season, and obviously the likes of Reece James. I think a lot of people are a little bit off him, even though his ownership's still quite high. I think that against a toothless Everton, I think you could get the clean sheet points plus an attack in return. But yeah, I'm picking a pretty big win for Chelsea, 3-0, mate.
3-0. Yeah, look, I think you do make some good points, especially with Everton. They've obviously lost Richarlison. It was a big player for them last year. Not really replaced him. I know they've brought in the likes of Dwight McNeil. But again, yeah, they've not made huge changes to their team. Reece James, he's about 40% owned at the moment, which I was surprised, but I thought for his price he might have even been sort of the 50% plus. So yeah, I think he's definitely one to watch. You mentioned Mount, and I think I can see Chelsea winning this one comfortably. Like you said, 3-0 is probably about right. We've got another question here from Models in Scale. So thanks for tuning in. Cancelo or Robertson? I have Walker and Trent. Oh, you know what? It's tough. He's got Walker and Trent. I'm assuming you mean in addition to those two, so Walker, Trent, and then Cancelo or Robertson. Yeah, I think the Robertson Trent double up's too good to pass in this sort of first 5 or 6 games. I think there's a lot of potential in there. We saw how attacking they were again in the Community Shield. We saw how good Robertson was at the end of last season. So I think the Robertson Trent double up, and then you've got some City coverage with Walker. It's probably the play here. Not having Cancelo can be painful, but I think there's enough upside with Robertson. What do you think, Hugh?
No, I think you're pretty right with that. The only thing I would make as devil advocate for this is if you don't have a sort of a Manchester City attacking asset, I think Cancelo is a must-have in your team because, as I said to you, it's like pretty much a midfielder playing in the back line. So if you do have Haaland or one of the 8.0 midfielders, I think you can get away with not going Cancelo, and Robertson, in my opinion, is probably the third best asset at Liverpool to have. So I'd have him over any of their sort of other assets outside of Salah and Trent. So I think if you do have an attacking asset from City, I think Robertson's the way to go for that one.
Awesome, good stuff. And I agree. I think if you don't have that Man City attacking coverage, then you definitely need Cancelo in there. We've got another question from Brady. Martinelli versus Saka. I think most people would say Saka is the better player. However, is he worth the extra 2 million? Q, I'll let you take that one to start with, and then I will. I'll come in with my piece because I've definitely got a preference. But what do you think on that one?
I think if you can do the Saka and Jesus double up, I think that's absolutely explosive because, as I think you've spoken during the preseason, is that you like Saka more than Jesus just for the upside of he's a midfielder, he's on penalties. So I think if you get the best of both worlds, you've got Jesus who looked really great this season, and then you've got Saka as a second option. I think that outweighs the extra 2 million you're paying over Martinelli, where I think Martinelli's looked good, but there is the rotation risk in a few weeks once Smith Rowe comes back. So, for me, I think that's an explosive double of Saka and Jesus, mate. What are your thoughts?
I think Saka's worth the extra 2 mil. I think with Saka, I think he'll get pens. I think he'll take over from them. Gabriel Jesus, I think he's got like a 42% penalty ratio. He had a really bad record at City. He's got a bad record for Brazil. And I just can't imagine they put him on them. I know there's Martinelli, who can also possibly take them, who's obviously mentioned in this question. But I think Saka's worth the extra 2 mil. Having the pens, he's got the pedigree. He scored, enough goals last year. He got a lot of assists. I think he's going to better that this year and get more goals, especially having the pen. So I think he's probably worth the extra 2 mil. Would I double up with him and Jesus? I think it's a possibility in this first 6 fixtures. And now's the time to do it if you're going to do it. So yeah, I would probably say Saka is worth that extra 2 mil. We've got another question from Craig again. Is it risky to wait till game week 3 to get a Chelsea defender when Cucurella starts at 5 million? I don't think it's risky. I think there's enough options at the moment, and it's always the element of the unknown at the start of the season. So we never know what's actually going to happen, do we? Obviously, we can only base it on what we saw last season, and glimpses in pre-season and transfer windows and and that type of thing. So I don't think it's risky. They've got Everton away. I know Q did mention, he can see Chelsea sort of blowing Everton away and beating them quite easy. It's still an away game at Goodison Park. We know what their crowd's like. It could be a tight affair. And then second week, they've obviously got the derby against Spurs at the Bridge, which Chelsea have a really good record in down the years. But again, I think, waiting until game week 3 probably isn't the worst thing, especially if we get the sort of intel that Cucurella is going to start in that team. But again, is he going to be in that left wing back position because they've got Ben Chilwell, or is he going to kind of tuck into that left central position? So, I don't think it's too risky. And I think we'll probably know, a few weeks in as to whether or not we need a Chelsea defender and who it actually is going to be. And for me, it's probably going to be more, do we need Reece James or Ben Chilwell as opposed to Cucurella? Because if Cucurella is going to be in that back 3, it's probably going to give Chilwell a lot more license to get forward, and it will probably, we could end up going back to the Chilwell, Reece James, glory days that we had last year towards the start of the season where they were just, absolutely smashing it points wise. But what do you think? Because I know you absolutely love Cucurella, don't you, Q?
Yeah, mate, it's known as Cucurazzler on our podcast, mate. But I think that it's probably good to wait till week 3 just because you can see how they integrate Cucurella into the side. Just because if Chilwell is fit, it'll be interesting to see if they do push Cucurella in like that central position, which still has its merits and has a little bit of value. Probably not as much value as if he was playing wing back, but I think you can wait till week 3. I don't think there's any rush at the moment. I think, as you said, Everton could be a tricky fixture. I know I did say that it'd win comfortably, but it is at Everton's home ground, so it could be tough as well. But I think you can wait till week 3 without sort of being punished too much.
Good stuff. All right, we'll move on to the next game. So we've got Leicester versus Brentford. This one's been had a lot of talk this week because obviously there's been the goalkeeper changes with Leicester and Kasper Schmeichel's left, and we've got Danny Ward and now Everson, who are both 4 million options, and some people have got them as a rotation. This is a really interesting game. But then you've got the likes of Wissa and Raya, who we've discussed, Tony at Brentford. So James Maddison at Leicester. There's some pretty big FPL matchups in this one. And we also got the news tonight that Harvey Barnes is going to be injured for a few months now. So that could possibly make maybe some sort of legway for someone like Ihi and Nacho to come back in the team, or Daka or someone like that. Leicester might put one of them in, and that could give us an interesting 6 million forward for a few months. I'm not sure how Leicester are going to play that one, but there's definitely some options from both sides. I think this one could be another tight affair. I don't think it's going to... I know Leicester have got other injuries as well. They've got Pereira injured. There's talks of Fofana leaving. So, a lot of people think this could be quite an open one and maybe a 2-2. But, Brentford aren't the most free-flowing in terms of goals. So, I think I might go with a boring 1-1 draw in this one. But maybe a James Maddison return or a Jamie Vardy penalty or something. But, what are your thoughts, Q?
Yeah, I'm similar as well. I think it could be about a 1-1 draw. I'm just interested to see how Brentford play with, obviously, Eriksen's not there this year. So he was, did ignite their attack last year and helped Tony out a fair bit. But, I think it's going to be a tight affair. I think Barnes missing is going to be a big miss for them. He's looked really good preseason. But this could mean Drewsbury Hall could have a bit more license to run a bit further forward. So, it'd be interesting. But yeah, I think if you do have assets, Madison's a great asset. Tony up front, a good asset. I don't think Leicester have looked great defensively yet. I think it's going to take a bit for them to, find their bearings at the back there. I think they've got a few players that are back from, they had extended spells out of the side last year due to injury. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, I think it could be a tight affair.
Yeah, it's a good point about Dewsbury Hall as well, because obviously he's 5 million, and at the moment you've got the battle of him versus Leon Bailey, who's the better 5 million option, and it's 5 million options at the end of the day. Like, it's rare you're going to get much out of them over a season. You might get one good game every sort of 6. You don't really expect to get huge points from them. So really, it's just more of a preference. But yeah, Dewsbury Hall has been on fire in pre-season, so it'll be interesting to see if he can carry it on in the league. So now we've got Manchester United versus Brighton. I'll give this one to Q. You've obviously got the Man United shirt on tonight. You are a Man United fan, so we'll get your really unbiased opinion on this one. It's at Old Trafford as well. So what do you think on this one, mate? Give us some players to watch from both sides, and then give us an honest score prediction without your best mate Ronaldo.
I'll try to be unbiased, but I think that this is going to be similar to week 1 last year when we beat the pants off Leeds. So I think we could win at least 3-0 this week. I think Brighton, they have had, I guess, the reputation that they are a great defensive team and hard to break down. But in preseason, I haven't quite seen that, and I think it's going to take a few weeks for them to sort of, get that defense sort of where it was last season. So I think United, the way they're playing, I think they've just been very slick in attack, and the likes of Sancho just looks like a new player under Ten Hag, as well as Rashford. And, Bruno probably hasn't had the greatest preseason, but, he can always turn it on as well. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a decent day out for Man United, and a lot of people are sort of overlooking their assets, thinking, looking at the Liverpool fixture week 3, I think you can do the short 2-week stint with one of their options. I think Sancho is probably their best option, but Rashford, I think, is a good backup option there if you obviously don't have the funds. But looking at Brighton, it looks like Welbeck's going to start up front with maybe Undav. But I'm sort of looking at a player, hopefully seeing some bench minutes, is Julio Enciso. I think I've spoken to you. He sort of reminds me a lot of Richarlison. So they have deployed him as a winger plus a number 10. So, I'm probably not considering any assets from Brighton, but I'm definitely interested to see how they go.
Yeah, Brighton were obviously a really good team to watch last year. They played really good football. But yeah, they're a little bit depleted now, like without Cucurella, no Basuma. So it will be interesting to see how they go. But yeah, I've not got any of their players. I've not got any of Man United players. But I do think you're right with Rashford. I think there's potential in him, potential in Sancho. Bruno Fernandes is another really interesting one, because obviously the season before last, he was unbelievable for FPL, and that was obviously, he was getting a lot of pens, and everyone was sort of talking about, all he did was score pens, but he was brilliant all around. And then last year he had his moments, but he never quite hit the heights of the year before. So it will be interesting to see if we get a sort of resurgence of Fernandes, because without Ronaldo, he'll get his pens back, and then it means he could be sort of the main man in this United team again, and we know he thrives off that. So that's definitely one to look out for. And I think, the fullbacks as well, Dalot, is one to look out for at 4.5 mil. So there's definitely some potential options from Man United, but I think personally it's kind of one of them you can kind of wait on maybe for a couple of game weeks, see how United are looking, and then start bringing them into your teams. But we'll move on now. We've got the last game to preview for game week 1, West Ham versus Man City, and I know a lot of people are eagerly waiting this one, because obviously Man City have got the big signing up front in Haaland. I think he's the main one that we're going to be looking at in this fixture. Haaland, De Bruyne, Cancelo, I think are the 3 key ones for me. From a Man City point of view, so you got Edison at 5.5 mil this year, which is it's pretty much in that first sort of 7 or 8 games. There's a number of games in there where you can just imagine that he's going to get you those 6 points every week for the most part. But yeah, City, I think is those assets. Mahrez as well, he's got less competition now. There's no Jesus, there's no Sterling. There's talk about Bernardo Silva going to Barcelona. So that's interesting. We've got Kyle Walker at 5 million. He doesn't really have any competition at right back because you've got Cancelo at left back. There's no Zinchenko anymore. And then Walker at right back. There's no one else really there. I know Ake can play left back. But now Laporte's injured, so Ake's covering at centre back. So there's potentially 2 nailed fullbacks there for Man City. And then if we move on to West Ham, probably the likes of Bowen, I think, did really well against City last year. He's got really good fixtures coming up. Aaron Cresswell, and then maybe someone like Fornals at 5.5. But yeah, what are you thinking, Q, in terms of FPL assets from this game?
Yeah, I think with the City assets, I think it's going to be quite a tight affair, a tricky fixture for City. I can still see City getting the win, but I think the likes of Haaland might be the goal scorer. It might be a 2-1 sort of end result for that. But I think Cancelo, you've mentioned Walker, nailed asset at the moment to, obviously they get some more players into, giving competition. But I think you probably at least need one Manchester City defensive asset. And then, I think Cancelo can be an all right cover this week for an attacking asset because I could, see him getting forward and, getting involved. But if you do have Haaland, I think, a decent asset as well. Bowen is probably the only asset I'd consider from West Ham at the moment. He does have that upside last season where he did, bang 2 goals against Man City. So, a lot of people are going for the differential route with him. And I think, it's a decent shout. But for me, probably just Cancelo and maybe one attacking asset from City this week for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think as well with Bowen, he's pretty fixture proof from a West Ham point of view. I think he's quite fixture proof. He can score against anyone. And they've also got the new Italian player in as well. So was it Scamacca? But I think they've already said he's not fully fit, so he's probably not going to start the game. But he'll be one to look out for down the track. He's only 7 million. I'll do a quick score prediction on the Man City West Ham game, and then we'll take the question. And I will go with I think we'll see a 2-0 Man City win. I think they'll have a little bit too much for West Ham, and I'll back Haaland to grab a brace in his debut because he is in my team. So I want him to grab me some FPL points. But we've got a question here from Matthew Rigby. Will Sancho do well this year or Rashford? Looking at United as a LFC fan, who is the better option for the cost as they've got good fixtures? Well, you know what, Q, as we said before, you're the resident Man United fan, so we'll take it away, mate. Who do you think's the better option?
I think if you want the safer pick and the better asset, I'd say Sancho. But I think Rashford, if you don't have the cash, you need to save. I think, he's a suitable asset as well. But yeah, I think for me, Sancho wins that battle. But yeah, I think both are good options, but Sancho for me.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking I'm still going to back Rashford. I think saving the million, getting Rashford there, I think Rashford's going to be in that more centre. I know he likes to come in off the left, but I think he's going to be quite fluid in that front 3. And yeah, he's going to want to better his sort of 4-goal return. He got 4 goals. Yeah, it was 4 goals last year. He's going to want to better that. So I think Rashford just edges it for me over Sancho. But time will tell if there's actually any worth having some of these these Man United players, because we've still got Ronaldo possibly to come back at some stage, which could completely change that front 3 again. So and Matthew's given us another question: Trippier versus Digne. Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I think for me they're quite even in the first 4 games, and I actually think Digne edges it for fixtures in the 4 games. I actually have Matt Cash and Trippier, so I kind of effectively have both of these players in a way. Obviously, it's not directly Digne, but it's still an Aston Villa defender. But if I had to pick between one or the other, I'd probably go Trippier because I really like his first 2 games, and I think his set, even though Digne's a set piece taker as well, I think Trippier's set pieces edge it over Digne slightly. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I think Trippier, and I know what Q's going to say, so I'll quickly get your opinion, Q. Who are you picking?
I think it's a lot closer than I'd like to admit. I think with the fixtures, I think Digne's got the prolonged fixtures, longer fixture run of, decent fixtures. But for me, the upside of Trippier just outweighs, the longer fixture run for Digne. So, for me, it'd be Trippier. I think there's just too much upside.
Yeah, fair call. And still trying to work out where this love affair with Trippier come from, Q. I know you absolutely love Kieran Trippier. Must have been that free kick for England in the 2018 World Cup that did it. But yeah, what we'll do.
At Spurs, I just love watching him play. And then when he left, I was filthy. But then when they signed him, I think the first week, I think was his first start in our group chat, I was pretty much telling you Trippier is going to bang. And then, he had a decent run of fixtures before, he got injured in the end. But yeah, I think this season he looks fit, and I could see him going really well.
Yeah, and I think actually another good point about Trippier, which I've mentioned on Twitter, Instagram, and everywhere else in the group messages, is I think Dan Burn and Botman to the side of Trippier, I think they're going to be really good back two. And Trippier is going to be putting a lot of these corners and free kicks into those guys, like the biggest centre backs in the league, the biggest centre back pairing in the league. So I think Trippier is going to be whipping balls into them from set pieces. Expect them to probably score a goal or two. Also got Matt Targett, who another Q player who he loves. He loves Matt Targett. On the other side, so they've got a good defence, and they've obviously got Nick Pope as well. So yeah, there's probably some really good potential in Newcastle with with the players they got and with Eddie Howe. So yeah, Trippier edges it for me. That's the fixture roundup. That's the score predictions and some of our favourite FPL players. For game week 1. What we'll do now, if keep getting the questions in as well. Obviously, we've got 7 minutes until deadline. So yeah, get as many questions as you can in. We'll see if we can help you out before it's done. Once we get 8 minutes away, your team's locked in, and then you've got to wait until game week 2 to make your changes. So yeah, get your questions in. What we'll do now, we'll quickly bring up another team. It's going to be Q's Scout 11. So Quentin, he's done a Scout 11 for us. So I'm just going to pull that up now, and we'll go through why you picked this team, and if we should have these players in our team. So let's pull up Scout 11 from Q. And if you don't follow Q, you can head to his Twitter page at FPL_Amateurs_Aus. You can see it there. It's his. It's just the tag there on the screen. So go give him a follow on Twitter. He's also on Facebook as well. He's got a website, FPL_Amateurs of Aus. You can just put FPL Amateurs of Aus into Google, and his website will come up. It's got all sorts of stuff on there. So go check him out. And here we go. We'll share this screen, and we'll get Q's Scout 11 up. Here we go. So talk us through it, mate. Let's start with the keeper.
I think
why Messiah against Wolves?
As I spoke to you, Wolves, I know I did pick Wolves to score a couple of goals this week, but, attacking wise, they haven't looked great over the past season. So, and I'm looking at Meslier. I think Leeds defense is, a little bit better than last season, where they might not concede as many, but they're going to concede a lot of shots. And Meslier has looked great preseason as a shot stopper. So I think he has decent upside week 1 against the Wolves outfit that, at times has struggled to score goals.
Okay. Yeah, no, fair shout. I think you're right. With Messiah, he makes a lot of saves for Leeds. Save points can be crucial because you can get a game week where he does concede a goal, but he gets a couple of save points, and then he's going to come out with 3 or 4 points. And it all adds up over a season. I can see you've gone with 3-4-3. So why do you think that's the best formation for this week as well? We'll quickly ask you about the formation. Actually, we'll go through the formation at the end. We'll go through the defense first. We'll go with your 3 defenders. So why have you gone with the Trent, Trippier, and Cancelo?
I've sort of gone the highest upside attacking trio. So I think obviously Trent's pretty obvious. He's going to be on corners, pretty much plays like a midfielder. So I think there's high potential for him to either score a goal or, get a few assists this week against a Fulham side that defensively they haven't looked great. Trippier, what I've mentioned earlier, just so much upside, got the free kicks, corners. He's going to be putting his crosses into Wilson instead of Wood. And as much as Wood has a reputation that has good aerial ability, I think Wilson is just a better option up front and, prolific goal scorer, which, he showed last year when he played, the few fixtures when he wasn't injured, he knows how to find the back of the net. So I think massive upside there. Cancelo, as I mentioned, with Trent, is pretty much a midfielder playing for, one of the best attacking teams in the Premier League. So, I think that I'm not really caring too much about the clean sheets with these 3. It's mainly just the attacking upside.
Okay. No, I like the sound of that. And I think, it's a pretty good back 3. Trent does the business every season. Trippier, like you mentioned, set pieces. And Cancelo is Cancelo. We know how good he can be. And just to quickly mention, we've got 4 minutes until deadline for the 22-23 Premier League season. So get your questions in. If you've got any last-minute questions, get them in the chat now, so you can get your team done before the next 4 minutes. We'll go into your midfield then, Q. Talk us through this. You've got Bailey, Mount, Rashford, and then you've got the armband on Salah. So, what's your thought process behind that midfield 4?
Bailey, I think, has a higher upside than Wolves. I just rate Villa attack more than I rate Wolves. So I think he's a better option. He's looked really good preseason. He's been on set pieces as well. So, that's another tick in the box for him. Mount, as I mentioned earlier, he's looked great preseason. Looks like the focal point of Chelsea's attack. And, I don't really like Havertz. Sterling's a bit too expensive if you're trying to fit him in, with the team that I've picked. So Mount's the pick for me. Salah, self-explanatory, is just a freak. So I've got him in the side. One of the best attacking teams in the league, and their focal point in attack. He's going to be involved in everything. And Rashford's more of a couldn't afford Sancho. And as I said, Rashford, is a great second option there. So had to put him in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right with Salah. He is he's a captain, I think, for this week. I think that fixture, we mentioned it earlier, Marco Silva from Fulham, the manager said they've only got 16 Premier League ready players. He's pretty much, it's almost like he's either mind games or he's given up before the game started. So I think Salah is the best option. And then we've got 2 minutes till deadline. So any last minute questions, you've got 2 minutes, get them in now. At the same time, you probably want to make sure your team's finalised in case the app does crash. So, 4-man midfield. I like the choices: Mount, Rashford, Salah, Bailey. Obviously, Bailey's that 5 million enabler that we spoke about earlier. So let's go into your front 3. Who have you gone for there, mate?
With Wilson, like I've mentioned, knows how to find the back of the net. I actually think these first 2 fixtures are good fixtures for him, and I could see him banging in at least 2 goals for these 2 fixtures coming up. So, I think this week is a great fixture for him, and I could see him, getting off to a good start. With the likes of Trippier feeding him balls all day, I think it's just going to be a recipe for success for him. Jesus, I think outside Saka's the best option at Arsenal. He's looked really good. Obviously a bit of a trickier fixture against Palace, but I can still see him getting at least a goal or an assist this week. And Kane, I think I've professed my love for you. I think I've even loved him more than you this preseason, and you're a Spurs fan.
You have. I love Kane as well.
I think he's probably the best premium asset outside Salah and Son. I think up front, he's going to outscore Haaland this week. I just think that he's a must-have this week. I think, he could easily bang in 2 goals this week. So, I think he's the best option up front this week.
Good stuff, Q. And look, we are about to approach deadline. We are 10 seconds away from deadline. It's a countdown. That's it. You've got to get your teams in. You've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done. And I'll tell you what, how are you feeling? I'm feeling a bit of a relief. I'm nervous because I'm looking at my team and I'm just like, I'm seeing this Scout 11 and I'm assuming this fits within the budget because you've made a Scout 11 within the budget, right? And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, God, this isn't a bad team. This isn't a bad team. Like, what's not in there that I've that I've got? And I'm looking at it thinking maybe Haaland and Robertson, but you've still got Kane. Obviously, I've got Son in my team, but you've got Mason Mount in there. You've got Rashford, who, yeah, I'm looking at this and thinking maybe I should have watched Q's Scout 11 before picking my team. But yeah, look, deadline, here we go. Another season is amongst us. But yeah, 3-4-3. If you want to just give us your final thoughts as to why you've gone that formation.
I think with just the upside with Wilson, had to put him up top with the 3. And then I think I don't really like defense as much because one goal against them, you lose the clean sheet. So I've decided just to focus on the 3 best attacking assets this week, in my opinion. Obviously, Robbo's a good pick, but when you're sort of trying to build a squad, it makes it a bit hard. So I think those 3 outside of Robbo are the best attacking options this week. And then
good
obviously
analysis.
the midfield. So midfield, I think, is pretty solid as well. I think there's enough points in that midfield to, score decent.
No, I agree. There's goals in this team. This team's got goals all over it, and obviously in the defence, midfield, any one of these can score. And the thing is, you picked a lot of set piece takers. So Kane pens, Wilson pens, Mount free kicks, and possibly pens, depending on if Jorginho plays or not. Salah pens. Rashford can take free kicks. Sometimes gets pens. Trippier free kicks. Alexander-Arnold free kicks. So you've picked you've picked a good team here. So that's Q's Game Week 1 Scout 11 for us. So thanks for doing that, mate. That's been that's awesome. And thanks for coming on the stream tonight, Q. And thanks to everyone that's watched the pod, asked us questions. We've really enjoyed it. So how you feeling then, Q? We're done. Deadline's done. How you feeling with your team? How do you think you're going to go this season? And what's your what's your target for your rank?
Well, to start off with, I was a little bit panicked as the deadline finished because I was doing that much tinkering leading up to tonight whether I'd actually kept the team that I wanted. So I had a bit of a brain fart there thinking that I hope I picked the right team. But yeah, I made sure just before it ticked over that I had the right side picked. But now I'm feeling pretty confident. I've backed what I've seen pre-season. I'm hoping that obviously the fixtures don't really mean too much during pre-season, but just the eye test for me, ticked a lot of boxes for the players I've picked. So I'm pretty confident. But as we've seen in previous seasons, you think you know everything, and then the game week starts and it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, so true. I do remember last year, game week 1, and it was some crazy scores. We saw 100 points. We saw, the average score was like 85 points or something ridiculous. And I think it was when Man United just hit the ground running, beat Leeds. Bruno got a hat trick. Salah got goals. Jota got goals. Trent got goals. And it was just an outrageous start to the season. And it'll be interesting to see if the template that we've seen built on Twitter, built on the FPL community, if that will actually hit the ground running, or if there'll just be a lot of shocks and then we all end up wildcard in game week 2. So we'll see what happens. And Q, what was your target rank for the season?
I think top 50k. I think last year I set a goal that I wanted to finish top 100k, mainly because I started the podcast last season, so I wanted a little bit of credibility by getting an all right rank. But this year, I think with the work I've put in the preseason, watching all the preseason highlights, doing all the analysis, I think a top 50k rank is, a reasonable target, but, I'm obviously wanting to go a little bit higher than that. But yeah, I think the target's set at about 50k for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then there was a time last year where you were, I think, top 1.5k, top 2k.
Yeah, for a period of time.
Yeah.
I think I was sitting top 7, top 8k for about 10 weeks. But as you saw, the demise of getting out Son for Salah and those last 8 fixtures pretty much put the nail in the coffin for me.
No, it did. And yeah, look, in terms of myself, obviously last year had a really good start to FPL at the start of the season. I was sitting really pretty in sort of the top 20k. And then I took a dip. I slipped down to kind of the 380k mark by sort of Christmas and New Year. And I thought, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Pulled it back. So I ended up having Son at the end and got on a really good run, and ended up, I think, around 28k in the end. So it was a good end. And it was a nice rank. So I think this season, probably going to aim for the top 10k. I think this year is where I want to look. I want to get a really good rank. Go into the top 10k club, and and go from there. But most importantly, I just want to enjoy the game this season. But there we go. That's our first deadline day stream for the season. We're going to be aiming to try and do this as many weeks as possible to help all of our viewers with their FPL teams. So yeah, thanks Quentin for coming on the pod. Really enjoyed having you on here. Great analysis with your Scout 11s. If everyone can just give this video a like, comment, subscribe, that'd be brilliant. If you can just give me a follow, FPL Matt Day on Twitter and Instagram. All the links are in on the channel description. And then Quentin is FPL_amateur_Aus on Twitter. He's also got his FPL Amateurs of Aus website. So definitely go and check it out and listen to his podcast. What nights is that usually, Quentin? Is it Wednesday, Thursday nights?
Yeah, I think this week's episode is going to be done on a Thursday night. So it'll be out sort of, I guess, late Thursday night Australian time. And then it'll be sort of midday UK time.
Awesome. Well, good stuff. And look, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you got something out of it. Thanks for all the questions. And we will see you on the next one. So good luck, everyone, for game week 1. The deadline's now passed. And I think for me and Q, it's probably going to be a little bit of a nap maybe for the next hour and a half. And then we will be tuning in for the Palace Arsenal game. I'll be hoping Jesus and Saka blank, because I don't own either of them, and I'm very scared now. And I know Q's got Jesus in his team, so he's going to want him to score a goal or 3. So anyway, that wraps up the pod. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one. See you next week.
Oh, that went well.